Where did you say you were now?
When I left Nashville in 2009, I moved to Redding, California to go to
Yeah, I
ministry
remember
school.
that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And then I moved from Redding to Los Angeles, and I worked at the Macy's Century City. I don't know if you ever got to Century City.
I
Strange
did
place.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I sold shoes there for about 2.5 years, and then lockdown came. And then I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I was working for a documentary company there. So, yeah. So, and now,
Nice.
yeah, I'm in transition now. That ended around April 10th. And so I'm headed back to Redding. But right now I'm staying with a friend of mine in Oregon, in Sisters, Oregon. I don't know if you ever heard of that or not.
Don Miller was just there.
Are you
He was.
serious? Really?
He just told me if you ever get back to Oregon, you got to go to Sisters. He said it's like one of the most beautiful spots on earth.
It's strange. I'll be here for about another week, and it looks like I'm going to have a connection here with some work. So I'll be coming back on a regular basis. But this is what I can see is like this is where the hipsters come to retire, pretty much. And the first day it was kind of like walking around in Westworld. It's like all Western facades on all the businesses, and the library, the
Really?
church, they all look the same, but it's all Western. Even the banks, like U.S. Bank, they have to conform to this Western facade. And I was expecting to see like, Yul Brynner come out and rip his face off and do something like
Wow.
that. I mean, I'm joking around, but this is not your typical, Midwest or Western
Right.
town. It's just unique, and it's not creepy. It's just bizarre. I mean, in a
Yeah.
good way. Yeah. So
But
that's
then,
where I am
how
right
did you
now.
like Tulsa? How did you like Tulsa, by the way?
Tulsa was strange. I mean,
Yeah.
there was a lot of mega churches, a lot of
Yeah.
medical places, clinics.
Did you
I
ever make it?
expected more, I think, than I got.
Did you ever make it to Kane's Ballroom for any shows?
No, but I knew Ministry played there, and I was bummed that I missed that. But
Oh, right.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, I got around to, let's see, Center of the Universe, which a touristy thing. There wasn't a lot to do in Tulsa, really, to tell you the honest
Uh,
truth. I mean, coming from Los Angeles, but it was an
yeah.
experience. You know,
Hmm.
what are you up to these days?
And then and I'll tell you, and then you're going back to Reading.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
yeah, I just felt drawn back there. I have a lot of friends, and I kind of in a
Yeah.
stage after I went to Tulsa for work, and that work finished. So I'm kind of looking to home again a little bit, be around people I know and love and trust, and there's a good church there that I can get plugged into. So it's a regrouping
Nice.
time for the next
Yeah.
couple of months and see what happens after that. I spent a couple of days last week in Hood River, Oregon. I don't know if you've
Uh-huh.
ever been up there,
I think so. Yeah.
but that was fun. Yeah,
Nice. All right.
very cool.
Uh, I'm still in Nashville. It's been like, geez, 36 years. So it's starting to feel like home.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I do. I was asked to a university here, the Lipscomb University, made me an offer I couldn't refuse. So, uh, so I've been there for quite a while now. Is the filmmaker in residence, and then I explain that the Peter principle of you rise in a organization to the level of your incompetence. So I'm now the director of the School of Theater and Cinematic Arts,
Wow.
and uh, and I think they've just invented the position to keep me around, and I don't have to do a lot of paperwork, but I get to teach some classes, and they give me a very wide berth, so I get to, I've produced a couple of movies over the last few years, and produced an animated series for Mike Naraki, the co-creator of Veggie Tales and voice of Larry the
Oh,
Cucumber.
yeah.
He's also on faculty with us, and still get to make some music with my bandmates in Chagall Guevara. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Wow, man. I hope to get back to Nashville sometime soon. We can have coffee or something.
That'd be great. Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so I'm gonna kind of scattershot things. It's very loose on this podcast. If we talk about anything that you want taken out, just let me know. I can edit it
Okay.
out, no problem. But I am gonna kind of ask you about some things that are probably not the normal fare, only because I know
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah,
So I hope you don't
absolutely.
mind. Yeah.
I'm all set.
So you started off in Los Angeles, correct? You grew up there?
That's where I started. I got my record deal. I might have still been living in Denver when I got signed, but then I moved to Los Angeles shortly thereafter.
Okay. Do you miss it at all? Or do you
I
still visit?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still get out there quite a bit. And, anytime I'm working on a movie project, there's usually some kind of business in LA that's needing to be taken care of. For whatever reason, I always end up there on good days.
That's
So,
good.
yeah, like the air is clean. And, I remember, oh, yeah, this is why I liked LA.
Yeah, I was there doing BLM and earthquakes, fires. I got the full LA experience. I got to
All the
see some
plagues.
rioting, some looting. So,
Wow.
I got my fill. um,
Yeah.
uh, how did you get your start? What is the first thing you did entertainment wise? Like, what is the first job you had in the entertainment business?
Um, I remembered this the other day. I think I was part of a church singing group, and a, a square dance instructor hired us to sing backup on his square dance. And I remember the song. It was called Shutters and Boards. And I'd never heard of the song, but I looked up the song, and it's actually a relatively famous song that had been covered by like Dean Martin and some country artists, and I remember all the words and everything. It's not a bad song. This particular arrangement wasn't particularly notable, but I think that might have been the first time I got paid to sing, even though it was not a particularly notable project.
Do you have recordings of that? Can we?
I don't think so.
No.
I'm hoping those are all gone. But it was like we're singing back up on the song just so that the square dance caller could then follow with Swing Your Partner and Do-Si-Do and all that stuff. And, he was a nice enough guy and was very grateful for the sound of the singing group. And we got paid.
That's pretty cool. The pay part is a bonus, of course.
Yes.
Around about what time was this? If you don't mind saying what year, if you do.
No. I'm 66. So this
Oh,
would
wow.
have been when I was probably 19, maybe. I
Oh, wow.
think maybe it was before I went to college, but somewhere around there. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And so, at what point did this mean anything to you in your life? Can you see
Yes.
that?
I can. Yes. So I had first heard about Madame Tussauds when we went to London, and when I was a kid, but I don't think we actually visited it. I just knew about it because I don't think we had time to get there. I
Mhm.
ended up visiting it later after I'd recorded the song. But, I knew that Madame Tussauds was a wax museum and that there were a few other ones around the world. And I don't remember exactly where the idea came from, but I just thought, what would that be like if, someone turned up the heat in the wax museum and everything started melting?
That's
And it
cool.
seemed like a good metaphor. Yeah.
Yeah, it led to this record, obviously. Um,
Yes.
kind of skipping the chronology here, but do you have any favorite songs like each record? Can you say this song I love, Still My Child, I love to revisit my child? Does that happen at
Yes.
all?
It's easier for me to tell you the songs I regret, but like I liked the title song a lot. I thought that one turned out pretty well, and that album, for the most part, there's probably 6 or 7 that turned out pretty well, and then
Yeah.
there's a few that those don't hold so well.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much how I feel about every album that I've made. The last one, the Goliath album, it's like, okay, I like all those songs. I think
Oh,
I
that's
still
cool.
like them. For the most part, the Squint album is the same,
Yeah.
but you go further back, and the younger I was, the more songs I regret.
So what you should do is do a compilation of the ones you want to forget, and that way,
Yeah,
you're working on legacy. Like, kids, here's something to avoid. You got to watch the good stuff and the bad stuff. Like, I took film
right.
classes and I studied Scorsese and I watched New York, New York, and that was a horrible film. But you got to watch the bad stuff to really appreciate the good stuff. So
That's
you're
right.
kind of inspiring me about a tribute record part two. We'll find out what the bad ones are and redeem them for you.
Wow. Yeah, the problem is you wouldn't have anybody who would want to record those songs. So,
Yeah.
but it is a little comforting, when you see someone like you have an artist you admire, and they make something that's not very good. It's like it's a little reassuring that even the greats can stumble. So it
Yeah.
makes the rest of us feel better.
You're in good company. Can you think of a good example of that at all? Like, wow,
Yes,
I went to
the
see this.
Coen-
It was terrible.
I thought I loved the Coen brothers, and I've liked everything they've done until the one with Tom Hanks, Lady Killers. And I did not like that
Yeah.
movie at all, and we'll never see it again. But I think that's probably the only one where I thought, nah, they missed it on that one.
Right.
Everything else, to varying degrees, nailed it.
Well, to this day, you've done two feature films directed, correct?
Yes.
So what is your forte, do you think? Are you more on visual, story, character arc? What means the most to you as a filmmaker?
Man, I'm still learning all of it. So, you know, if I mean, it would be very easy for me to sit down with somebody and watch one of the films I made and point out all the things that I did wrong and that I messed up and that I regret. And there would be a lot more things in that situation than with the albums.
Mm-hmm.
The Blue Light Jazz movie, I could sit and watch and not be too uncomfortable. But the Second Chance movie, it's turned out fine, but there's just a lot of things that I thought, oh, geez, why did I use that long lens on this shot? And, why didn't I give Michael an activity in that scene? Because he worked better when he had something to do. Part of the fun of teaching filmmaking is not only, do I occasionally reference for the class the things that I screwed up, but it just, it's constantly reminding me of what's possible. And the last two films that I've done, I've just been producer on,
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like filmmaking minus all the fun parts.
Yeah.
But it's like the most recent one is a movie called Sketch that hopefully will come out either later this year or early next year. And it's got Tony Hale from Arrested Development, Deep, and Darcy Carden she was Janet in The Good Place, and then three adorable kids. And we're calling it Inside Out meets Jurassic Park.
Cool.
But it's a really good movie, and it's my friend Seth Worley wrote and directed it. And it was so much fun watching him work because he's frankly a much better filmmaker than I am, and it was just a blast seeing him do his thing. Even though this was his first feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I had the pleasure of writing, directing, and producing two of my own shorts when I was in film school in Reading, and then I produced two for two students, and one actually won a lot of awards in Los Angeles. But I'm sure.
Congratulations.
Well, thanks. I'm sure you've worked with these kind of people who are like way high maintenance. They're like visionaries, but when it comes to the practical, it's kind of, they keep dreaming while you're in production, and you're like, we have to get these things done. That's where the producer in me comes out, and I kind of feel like, yeah, that's my forte. So I know what you're talking about. Looking at things from all angles and kind of officiating versus making it. What do you prefer?
Right. Well, I definitely prefer the directing side, but I was working the movies I've made. I had two of my fellow producers who knew a lot more than I did and gave me were so patient and gave me such a wide berth. So the first movie I produced for somebody else was my grad assistant, and it was a story based on her experience teaching English up in the mountains of Taiwan. And it was her first movie, and she did not have a lot of experience, but it turned out actually pretty well. And anytime I was starting to think, feeling upset or like, oh, this is going to work, something like that, I just kept remembering how patient my producers were with me. So I tried to bite my tongue as much as possible. But on the latest one with Sketch with Seth Worley, he's just great. He brought the movie in on time and even slightly under budget.
That's always good.
Yeah, it's a lot of VFX, so that took quite a bit longer than we were hoping. But otherwise, he was really on it.
Cool. So I'll just kind of scroll through a couple of photos or album covers here. You tell me what you remember, fondness, not fondness, whatever comes to mind. So here's the first one.
Okay. Yes. I like that album cover a lot. I like the On the Fritz album generally quite a bit. We recorded it, we called it New York, but it was really, the producer lived in New York City, but we were working at West Orange, New Jersey, across the river, which was a little bit better deal on the studio. And it was all New York studio musicians. And the producer was a guy named Ian. Oh, geez, might have to cut this out.
It's okay.
Terrible. What is Ian's last name?
I don't know either, unfortunately.
I'll start again. The producer was a musician named Ian McDonald, who was an original member of King Crimson, and then was founding member of Foreigner and did their first two albums, and was just like a really great musician. This may have been the first album he produced, but it was just really enjoyable being in the studio with him, and he put together a really good group of musicians. And we had some clashes, but overall it was a good experience, and the album turned out pretty well. And and I like that cover too. That was a couple of friends in Denver, Herb and Dave, who had formed a company, and I think they also did the Meltdown album cover. So,
cool.
Good on. Yeah.
Let's see. There's this one. Now, this is the first record I ever heard by you. I had a friend of mine whose girlfriend was big into the Christian music scene, and so this was like 83, 84, 86?
This would have been 83. Yeah, it came out in 1983. Did you see that documentary on the band Sparks?
I know of it. I did not see it, but I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
It's really good. And they interviewed the photographer of Sparks, and he's the guy who shot that album cover and designed the whole set with the, clone people and the sanctuary. And he was a blast. And he was the one who first told me about the band Sparks, which I became a fan of as well. The album was 6 songs because the label wanted to do an experiment and see if a project like this could fly, because it wasn't anything they'd done before really that was being done at the time. And so they thought, well, we'll just do an EP in case it doesn't work. That way we won't have blown our wad.
Right.
And for whatever reason, it ended up catching on. So,
well, you were quite the groundbreaker in many ways, not just in the genre or what you brought to the table. I mean, intelligent lyrics, that's the first thing I gravitated towards. In high school, I was listening to some pretty sophisticated stuff. And so going to church, getting saved, and then hearing, oh, wow, this guy knows wit. He's got a sharp intellect. He's got a great sense of humor. I got to find out more about this guy. And then when you did the Meltdown, the first music video, I think, in that market, and the first remix record.
Yes, right. I think my label Sparrow had done one music video prior for a group called Silverwind. So this might have been the second one that they did.
Right.
And they knew that I had studied film along with music in college at Colorado University in Boulder.
Mm.
And so they thought, hey, let's see what happens. So they gave me $5,000 to make a music video, and a lot of things should have gone wrong, but I recruited a cinematographer from my church who did shot a lot of car commercials, and
Nice.
he couldn't have been nicer, and he brought his crew along. And I found the Hollywood Wax Museum on Hollywood Boulevard, and it was kind of a low rent wax museum, but they were closed on Mondays, I think. And so the curator was willing to rent it to us for like $500 for the day, but he was also like a budding special effects artist, and so he was the one who figured out how to make it look like some of the faces were melting and things
cool.
like that. And for whatever reason, God smiled on us, and then it turned into a thing.
So I'm kind of curious, in those days where you're kind of feeling things out, testing things out, what do you remember about that period that really stood out to you, where you're like, I have this, I will carry this the rest of my life? Is anything come to mind there?
Um, I got, I was pretty fortunate in that, like the record label, really all of the ones that I worked with, I had really good experiences with every label that I worked with. The only exception would have been Chagall Guevara got signed to MCA Records, and that was not a good experience. They fired our A&R team before our record came out, and
Yikes.
it was a mess. But I had really pretty good experiences, and all the labels gave me a very wide berth, but I also tried to reciprocate by being, by not being a jerk. And so, yeah, there's things that you learn along the way. And of course, one of the things I learned before starting a record label was just the mechanics of putting a project together, and trying to figure out the marketing, and trying to kind of figure out what the angles are and how to get it to the widest possible public, so that when I started the Squint label, I had a pretty good sense of where I wanted to go with the label. But even then, I didn't know nearly as much as I thought I did, and I was just fortunate to find some people to work with me who knew a lot more, and particularly knew a lot more about how to get on the radio in the case of Sixpence. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, before I go to the records that are more recent, I do want to bring this one up. What does this mean to you?
I haven't thought about that for a while. So I think she would probably agree with this. We were kind of dating at the time,
Mm-hmm.
like,
What year
going
was this,
out.
do you think?
This would have been like 1984, I think.
Okay.
And she was still doing the Facts of Life show. And I can't actually remember how we met. It might have been, she was a fairly outspoken Christian, which was kind of rare in Hollywood, I suppose. Not unheard of, but not wildly common.
Right.
And we hit it off, and back to the Meltdown video. I asked her if she would want to be in the music video, and she agreed to. So she ends up playing the part of like a newscaster, and did a really nice job lip syncing a certain segment of the song.
Put your stocking in candles, I think.
That's right. Yes. And
Yeah.
so then she got a record deal and asked me to write a song. And so, yeah, I did, and she recorded it, and I can't remember what exactly happened, but I met somewhere along the way, I met my wife, and but Lisa and I are still friends, and I saw her not too long ago, and she seems to be doing well. So yes.
Cool. So this record, I really got excited when I heard this record.
Yes.
What are your memories about this?
Well, for one, this is where I met Dave Perkins, who was, he and Lynn Nichols, who was actually my A&R guy for that album.
Mm-hmm.
The three of us started Chagall Guevara. But I remember the record took quite a while. And we recorded it between LA and Nashville. And that's kind of where I got my first real taste of Nashville. And I remember a lot of the album was animated by just the era that we were in. There was the televangelist scandals were happening, and the Christian record labels at the time were kind of feeling the heat of that. So they were encouraging their artists to do albums that would reassure the Christian audience that, I don't know, they were still Christians or something like that. And I just didn't feel the need to do that. So the I Predict album ended up fairly controversial for a number of reasons. My wife designed the cover based on a trip we'd taken to Vienna and studying the art around the turn of the century in Vienna. So that was the inspiration, but various people thought it looked like a tarot card, so that was a little problematic. Yes. And then the opening cut, I Blew Up the Clinic Real Good, was, of course, the whole idea was that the ends don't justify the means, but that seemed to fly right over the head of some listeners, and certainly a lot of Christian bookstore owners. It was a good experience, but that was the album that by the time album was done, maybe even before that, I just felt like it was time to go do something else. And I remember telling my band at the time, it's probably going to be the last tour. And when the tour was over, I think Dave Perkins had the idea of starting a band and just trying to get signed to a mainstream label, and being a band without a specific Christian agenda. So even though Lynn and Dave and Mike Mead and I were all Christians, and Wade, who also joined the band a little later, we just wanted to be a successful rock band. And we did not achieve that goal, but we were more successful than all of MCA's other rock bands, which meant that they wanted us to do another album. And at that point, we just wanted off their label. So the band kind of dissolved in the standoff of trying to get out of our record deal.
So, of course, you're talking about this.
Yes.
Chagall Guevara.
Yes.
Yeah. So how did it come about initially, this band?
While Dave and I were working on the album, the I Predict album, and Lynn Nichols was the A&R guy, he just started imagining what a different band would be like. And Lynn, somewhere along the way, ended up leaving Myrrh Records. I mean, I think the fact is he got fired. I don't think that's a secret. I know those stories
all too well.
Yeah. Right. So he was ready for a new chapter as well. And I think Dave was one who came up with the band name. I think it came to him while he was staying at our little apartment in Glendale. It was a one-bedroom apartment, but the bedroom was an office. So our bed was in the dining room, and we had a blow-up mattress for Dave in the living room. And it was like a heat spell. And so it was really hot, and his blow-up mattress lost pretty much all its air that night. It only had one little bit of air that ended up being the pillow. And somehow during that fever dream of a night, he came up with the name Chagall Guevara.
That's awesome.
And he held it up. He wrote it out to me on a piece of paper and held it up to me. And, I really liked it. I don't know that it was a great idea, but I liked the combination, and I loved, the thought of Marc Chagall and Che Guevara creating starting a band.
No, I think it's a great idea too. You should make a movie about that.
Yeah.
Um, I first met you at Perkins in Nashville. I'm sure you don't remember it, but
Oh, wow.
you guys had just finished a gig with Chagall Guevara. I don't know where,
Yeah.
but you were there afterwards. And I was with my roommate from Belmont University, which was Belmont College at the time. And
Yes.
we're like, that's Steve Taylor over there. And I was just like, hi, my name's Alex. I think you're amazing. Oh, and you were like, oh, this is my band. I'm like, cool. I think you're awesome. I was 1990, you know. Um, so that's the first time I met you. I would not encounter you again for quite a while. And before I bring up the reason why, I want to draw attention to a certain individual that has overlapped your career and my career. I went to work
Okay.
for REX Music. That was
Yes.
the second job I had in the music business. The first
Oh, wow.
was at Star Song approving accompaniment track copy. I worked at
I don't
Star
think
Song.
I remember
Yeah.
that. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I worked at Star Song, approving the copyright information and making sure everything was spelled correctly. And then I worked for REX, and this guy came along.
Oh, man. Oh.
Yeah.
Jay.
Yeah, great
Man.
guy.
Yes.
You know, a legend that died too soon.
I know.
Yeah,
Jay was as close as Jay was kind of like Squint's patron saint. He was just
exactly.
he
Well, the
was-
same thing
he
with
was the guy.
REX. I mean, even though he had to pour himself into like Living Sacrifice and Believer and Circle of Dust, death metal, thrash, industrial stuff, and it wasn't his thing, but he poured his whole heart into it. And then this record came along, and
Yes,
this is where our paths cross again. And he
that's
was
right.
over the world, ecstatic to work this record. And I know my side of the story. I want to hear your side of the story, how you heard about it and who you heard it from, just as much as you can remember.
Yes. Well, I remember hearing that it was in the works, and I can't remember if maybe I talked to you or somebody about it. And of course, I was really flattered that this would be happening. But I think I maybe told you it's like, thank you for doing this. You know, I look forward to hearing the finished results. 'Cause I didn't think it would benefit anybody if I was, you know, involved in any way outside of sitting down when it was all done and enjoying listening to the project. I know that part of this is how part of the reason I ended up meeting up with Sixpence, because they had the cover of Bouquet, and we did a show at the 328, right?
Yeah.
It was like the tribute night or something like that.
Depreciation night.
The depreciation night. Yes, that's right. And that was my first time to hear Sixpence.
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And of course, you know, they were fantastic. And I'm trying to think, was the Wayside on that show? On
The
that bill too?
Wayside, Sixpence opened. You came on next. The Wayside, and then Circle of Dust.
That's
but
right. Yes.
By the time you were finished, most people left the building to go venture out into other places. But it's also because, and no one knew this, no one could have known this. This was timing. This was an act of God to do the tribute record and have it coincide with the release of Squint, which you just announced. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's right. Because that was the same weekend that I got announced. That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you actually had the show together by the time we did that showcase. I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
because you were doing songs from Squint while we were doing the tribute record. And
Okay.
we didn't know, we had no idea you were about to do a record. So it's like,
Right.
timing was perfect. I mean, it was angelic, I guess. What else you
Yes.
gonna say? Divine
Yes.
synergy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it still remains one of the nicest things that ever happened to me. And, you know, of course, I so appreciate you putting in all the work to make that happen. That was a really great thing. And as I've said many times, I liked a lot of the new versions better than the originals. And even, at least on one or two occasions, I think I cribbed from the cover versions in my live show. So, yes.
No, you gave total props to that. I appreciate it. And I was flattered that you were flattered because I just thought it was a good idea. At the time, I was doing college radio, and a trend in mainstream radio was to have bands do covers of, Led Zeppelin, Kiss, stuff like that. And I'm like, it would be great to do the same thing in the Christian market. Who should we do it to? And I thought of you, of course, and then Striper, which I did later on. But the way it actually germinated was over a year before we put it out. And I was looking, I had just come on to REX. I was trying to come up with a way to do this by myself, like find bands that attributed Steve Taylor as to one of their influences, and then go, hey, can you cover a song? I can give you $500 out of my paycheck, and then we can do the record. And so the way it actually worked was a couple of bands did the songs, and I didn't have money for it, but they were like, we want to be a part of this. And then I took that to REX and like, this is a great idea. And they were like, nah, it's not our artist. I don't know if we're going to do this or not. So this is me being a punk kid. I leaked it to the press that REX was going to put the record out. And so they were like, oh, now we got to do this thing. And it turned out to be something huge. I mean, we were able to do the depreciation night. And even after everything went down with REX, it was still like one of the best selling records they had in their catalog. So, I look back at it, I listened to it, and I'm like, did I really do something that cool when I was like 25? Okay. Yeah, it's been like 30 years, man. Can you believe it?
Oh, no, I can't. And I love the title that you came up with. Like, I Predict a Clone. That was gold.
Yeah, it was pretty easy, actually. Yeah. It's funny. I did actually get to sit down with Jay before I moved to Reading. And he gave me the last, physical cover of a CCM. And we were talking about old stuff. And he's like, did you ever think about doing another Steve Taylor tribute? And I was like, well, I kicked around some ideas for some titles. Like I blew up the Cynic real good. So who knows, man? Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
That's really good.
Let's see. Okay, so let's play this because this came after or about the same time. I want to get your reaction to this.
You people out there on the front lines, playing the music on the radio, stocking the shelves of your stores, writing the reviews, promoting the concerts. And with all that influence gathered in one place, a lesser man might be tempted to try and somehow buy your loyalty with silly gifts and crass commercial items. The kind of desperation tactics that shamelessly scream to one and all, this guy would do anything to sell records.
I forgot
Do you
about
remember that all?
Yes, I think did I even like give away my jacket and my tie or something?
Yeah, you sure did. I was wondering, like, was that your real stuff, or was that a show and people brought it back to you and go, "Hey, here's your stuff"? Like,
No, I think I gave it all away. Yeah.
Well, you give the shirt off your back. You plant a seed, and you get it back in tenfold. So I hope you got 10 shirts back for that.
Yeah. Yes, I do remember that. That was a fun time.
All right. So with the tribute, I'm going to play some audio for you because you talked about like what you were thinking at the time. Do you remember we did a promo? It wasn't really a pre-release. We played the records and got your feedback, like your response as it was going down. Do you remember doing that?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. You know Rob Woolsey. Do you remember him?
Yes, of course.
We went to his house, and I played several tracks, and you gave comments as it was coming down. That way we could release that as the pre-release so people wouldn't play it on the radio. And so Here's the intro to that really quick.
Okay. Hi, this is Steve Taylor here. I've just been given a tape that has 8 of the songs on a tribute album that's coming out soon on Rex Records. Songs of mine that have been re-recorded by other bands. The name of the album is called I Predict a Clone. I would like to start off, before I go through each song, listening to them and making comments, I'd like to start off by saying 3 things. Number 1, I think this is one of the nicest things that's ever happened to me. Number 2, however, just for the record, it was not my idea. I didn't pay Rex Records to do a tribute album, just so everybody knows. In fact, I didn't know about this until a while back, and my response was, show it to me when you're done, but don't ask me to be involved. So this is my first official involvement. I'm going to actually make comments while we're listening to the songs. And number 3, I'm not dead. I'm not feeling that great today. I'm a little tired, but the heart's still going. And so I realized it would probably help the record if I could kick off sometime in the next few months. I got no plans on that, but it's in God's hands.
I don't know if you heard that at all.
Yes, nice.
Yeah, no, so it was cool to have you comment as stuff was going down. And that recording, by the way, is highly sought after on eBay. So if you find your copy and you want some quick cash, eBay.
It's good to know, yes.
And I did find this. What does that mean to you?
Oh, right. So because I was signed to Warner Alliance, which was a Warner Brothers affiliated label, for a while there, their artists could use Bugs Bunny for promotional purposes. Mm-hmm. And they changed it not too long afterwards because they realized, hey, we have a really, important cultural asset here, and we're just letting it be used for projects like this. But yes, we got to use Bugs on. Who would I thought with 4-year-old me would have ever thought that I could do a project and have Bugs Bunny on the cover? It's
something that cool.
Wonderful life, yes.
Yeah, I think Chris Hauser was doing promo at the time at Warner Alliance, and he told me this was the last one they could get away with. So what better one? Like after that, there was a cease and desist from Burbank, and they couldn't do it anymore. But I'm like, that's cool. I want to ask you a couple of things, and if you want these cut out, that's cool. But you've shared some stories with me over the years that you probably wouldn't want out in the open, because at the time you were trying to cultivate a presence or maintain stuff for your PAs or whatever. Right. But you told me a story because one of the bands you produced was Guardian. And you told me a story about, as an inside joke, you wanted the poison sound. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell that story, please? Because, man, like I said, you're working on Legacy now. So there's, let it all hang out.
I don't see why not. So it's a long story. I hope, your listeners don't get too bored.
Oh, no. This is gold.
So we got to go back to, I was producing the Newsboys, the 3rd album that I'd done with them, Take Me to Your Leader. Mm-hmm. And but prior to that, I produced this Guardian album. I think it was Buzz. And so that came about because I was on tour, on the Squint tour, and our opening band was Dakota Motor Company. And they were on Murr Records, and the head of the label was my longtime friend, Jim Chafee. And so we're out on tour, and it's a great combo, and they were just like the perfect band to be touring with. And I think at that point I'd already made a music video for them as well, and we're all getting along famously, and it's just a good musical mix. Well, Peter from Dakota Motor Company, he gets a job offer while he's on the road to come and host an MTV show.
Oh, wow.
And it's too good of an opportunity to pass up. He can't turn it down. So they've got to leave the tour, and now we don't have an opening band. And so my friend Jim, the head of Myrrh Records, says, well, I've got this other band, Guardian. Any chance they could join the tour? And my first reaction was, like, Guardian, like, aren't they kind of more of like a hair metal kind of band? And he said, yeah, they kind of came out of that Sunset Strip hair metal scene, but you know, they're really good guys, and I think you'd like the guys a lot, and you know, you'd be doing me a favor. And I said, you know, it's not a great music combination. And he said, I understand that, but you know, what do you think? And Jim, you know, is probably as much as anybody responsible for me getting a record deal. So how could I say no to my friend Jim? So I said, all right, sure, let's do that. And so Guardian shows up, and we're all traveling on the bus together, and and right away, like one of the very first things that happens is I'm in the back of the bus, we're talking, we're getting along fine. And Jamie, their lead singer, comes to the back and says to David, their bass player, hey man, the FedEx didn't come. And David's like, oh, you're kidding. And he said, no, I'm not. And Dave's like, oh my gosh. And I said, what's the matter? And he said, oh, his Tourette's medication didn't arrive in time for us to leave. And I'm going like, oh yeah, right. Like, he's got Tourette's. And they go, dude, it's not funny. It's really serious. And I'm going, come on. And they're like, dude, it's not a joke. Jamie's got Tourette's, and it's really bad when he doesn't get his medication. So I'm like, oh wow. Well, I guess I hope it arrives soon. And then over the next 3 or 4 days, every time I would like pass by Jamie, he'd be like, you know, kind of shaking his head and uttering some swear words under his breath. And
so this wasn't a joke.
This was not a joke. And so, you know, like the third day, I get on the bus, you know, to grab some clothes or something, and Jamie's on the floor in the hallway, like shaking and you know, shaking around, and Dave's trying to calm him down like he's calming a horse or something like that. Like, it's okay. And I'm thinking, oh wow, this is serious. And so this goes on for, I think, almost a week. And one day, like, the bus driver is he's got a rental car, and he's running me back to the hotel or something like that. And the bus driver said, hey man, I about had to go off on Jamie today. He started swearing at me. And I said, oh man, you got to understand, he's got this thing called Tourette syndrome where, you know, he just can't help it. And the bus driver said, well, that's good to know, because I was about ready to punch him. And it turns out that the whole thing was a hoax. And I was the only person on the whole tour who wasn't in on it. Oh, man. And the only reason they stopped it was because at one point I was, you know, asking the group before a concert just, you know, to pray for Jamie. And that's when they decided, okay, this has gone too far. Oh, man. So it was a really great practical joke, but like, I fell for it. Well, because they told me twice, no, it's serious, right? So I believed them. So you got to know that as the basis of the whole thing.
I didn't know that part. That's good to know. Right. Thanks.
So that helps a little bit.
Yes, it does.
So anyway, we finish up the tour in Europe, and I think the last night in Germany, they come to me and they say, "Hey," and the whole night, you know, every night they're playing, and they're a really good band. It's just they're playing music that over the course of, it was right around that time that over the course of about 6 months when, you know, Nirvana was happening and grunge was taken off, and that whole hair metal scene just died in the space of 6 months.
They went from extreme to a Nirvana.
Exactly. Yeah. And so all the, you know, the Motley Crues of the world, they go from playing arenas to playing clubs, and it just shrinks like fast. And so at the end of the tour, Guardian says to me, "Hey, is there any chance you'd want to, you know, produce our next album?" And I said, "Well, you know, I hear you guys playing every night. You guys play great, but the kind of music that you're doing, it's got an audience that is shrinking really quick." And they said, "Well, that's why we want you to do the next album. It's because we want a different sound." Mm-hmm. So I liked them, and I liked the challenge, and I knew, they could all play well. And so we went to work. And they actually came out of not only Southern California, but that kind of Sunset Strip hair metal scene. And they were actually on the same label as Poison was.
Yep.
And
Striper.
And Striper, yeah, right. And Striper, I knew some of those. I knew those guys, and they were friends. But Poison, I just thought they were the stupidest band in the world. Like, I hated everything about Poison. I thought their music was dumb. I thought their lyrics were terrible. Everything about it. And so, as soon as Guardian learns how much I don't like Poison, of course, they're just going to rub my nose in it every time they can. And so,
Unskinny Bob was not your jam.
That's right. So every day in the studio, they're making some reference to Poison. Hey, Steve, the guitar player Tony would say, I'm feeling a little CeCe DeVille today. How about one of those Poison licks? And, Jamie was like, I need to shred this vocal like Bret Michaels would shred it. So Poison becomes the whipping boy during the whole process. And, it's just like a running joke. All right. So we finish that album and we get it mixed. And I'm really happy with the way the album turned out. But I've got to go right from that to producing the next Newsboys album. And now the Newsboys have become really popular. So popular that I was really concerned about recording them in a studio that was easily accessible. I felt like, man, we got to find a place where we can hole up and where people won't be stopping by to bother us or to hang out or anything like that. We just need to put our heads down, because this was going to be the album where it was Newsboys and they were playing all their own instruments and no other players, and it was just going to be intense. So we find a studio that had actually been abandoned, and all the equipment had been moved out, and it was on an alley off of Music Row. And so we move in equipment, and Russ Long, my longtime friend and engineer, he's engineering. And so we're just going to hole up in that studio and make the next Newsboys album. But of course, while we're doing all this, there's always questions from the prior project, because there's still some sequencing to be done on the album and mastering and some just things. So members of Guardian are calling periodically just to ask me a question, things like that. So I'm in the studio one day with the Newsboys. And Jody, the guitar player, is working on a guitar part, and the rest of the band are sitting on the couch behind me. And the phone rings, and one of the studio assistants, there was two of them, picks up the phone, and then he says, and then he says to the other assistant, hey, it's the lead singer of Poison on the phone. He wants to book some studio time. And I'm thinking, oh, right. Like, the lead singer of Poison is going to call this crappy studio to book studio time. Like, obviously, it's Tony from Guardian playing a practical joke on me. So I pick up the phone and I say, is this the lead singer of Poison? Yes. Well, I just want to tell you your band sucks. And there's a pause on the other end. And the voice says, you're joking, right? Well, it sounds like Tony, Southern California voice. I said, no, your band sucks, and everybody knows it. And there's another pause, and then I glance up at the guy who answered the phone, and he's looking at me wide-eyed, and I think, no, that can't be. And I said, Bret? Because, the lead singer of Poison is Bret Michaels. A voice says, yes. Hey, hold on, I'll get someone for you. It was Bret Michaels, the lead singer of Poison.
Oh, man.
Calling himself to book studio time.
Oh, man.
Because presumably things aren't going well in LA. He wants to get out of town. He wants to go someplace like Nashville where he can get some respect.
Oh, man.
And I've told him not once but twice, this band sucks, and that everybody knows it. So, of course, the Newsboys are witnessing this, and they think this is the greatest thing ever.
Of course.
And so on the whiteboard in the control room, we have, the checklist of all the songs, and you check off when you get the drums done and the bass done and the guitars. But it's, at the top, we haven't decided what the album's going to be called. And so they filled in Newsboys, Poison Sucks is the name of the album. And they do the same thing with the whiteboard in the studio, right? So it's twice. So
Oh man,
Bret Michaels, he comes to town that weekend.
I haven't heard this part. Awesome. Yeah.
And he books a time when we're out of the studio to have the studio owner give him a tour of the studio, just so that he can say at the end of the tour, well, just so you know, I would have booked this studio, but some guy jerked me off over the phone, so I'm never working here ever. And which is, of course, what he did. But while he was taking the tour, he saw two whiteboards that also said "Poison sucks." So,
Oh man, I love it. You can see this the punchline come from a mile away.
you can.
It's just
you can.
like you can't make this stuff up.
No.
Keep
So,
it
to
humble,
my
right?
knowledge, that's right. I've never told that story in a public forum. So, but Alex,
Thank you.
I owe you a lot. So you're welcome.
Well, thank you for blessing me to release that to the world. No, man, it is so awesome, and I know you've had several of those stories, and
And by the way, if Bret Michaels is out there, my apologies. It was unintentional.
Yeah.
And
we love you.
Please don't.
Jesus loves
Please.
you. I'm sure you know.
exactly, yes.
So there's only one more that I'm going to ask about, and once again, if
Okay.
you want to cut, we can cut it. But I want to play
Okay.
a little audio for you and explain this if you can.
With a little disclaimer, the tune's okay, but the words are getting lame. Ain't no saint can legitimize. I'm in pride with time with unionize. See, I agree we ought to boycott hell, but we ought to boycott dumb lyrics as well.
And if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. But you've told me the
You know-
story, and that's the only reason I bring it up. And we can cut this out if you'd rather not be there. It's up to you.
I have no shame left. I might as well. It was not one of my finer moments. So we're doing the first album. I'm doing the first album with the Newsboys, and for whatever reason, they loved this particular song, "Boycott Hell" by DeGarmo and Key. And DeGarmo and Key, I had actually been a fan of when they started off, and thought their albums were good. I had probably lost, hadn't been following them for that portion of their career. And so the Newsboys wanted to do a cover song, and they wanted to cover that song. And I was frankly kind of horrified at the song. I just didn't like it at all. And no disrespect to DeGarmo and Key, but I just didn't think that song belonged on the album for no other reason than I just wasn't a fan of the song. And the band kept insisting, and they do the song live, and they just wanted to do it. And ultimately, I'm there to serve the band. It's not my project. So I finally agreed, okay, we'll do that song. And then I don't remember the exact context, but one night we had this instrumental section that was just kind of sitting there and nothing was happening. And so I decided to record a little rap that, kind of insults the song. And just as a joke. And then the Newsboys heard it and they were like, oh, this has to stay. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And plus the record label's not going to let you keep it on there anyway. And then the record label president came in and heard it. He says, oh, this has to stay. So it stayed. Thankfully, Eddie DeGarmo has forgiven me for the cheap shot. But anyways, that's the story behind Boycott Hell.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it's so cool that you can take a mistake like that and own it. So bravo,
Right.
number one. Number two, I have a little insight to that, believe it or not. I'm beginning to
Okay.
see more people I interview. I'm like, I was more prolific and around things I had no idea until 30 years later. I can go, yeah, I knew about that. I knew about that. And I thought it was nothing then, but I'm like, dude, I really got behind the scenes, do a lot of stuff.
Right.
I interviewed Doug Mann from REX about
Yes.
2 weeks ago. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, he did his very last music business interview on this podcast. So this is a coup. I can get him. I can get you. I'm setting my sights higher as who can I can bring on. Anyway, so Doug was telling me about the Boycott Hell because he went to work for Forefront, and he had to kind of bring Eddie DeGarmo off the road and say, hey, we need to, really focus on songwriting. What do you want to do? Blah, blah, blah. And be a legit label. And especially if they sold to EMI, they had to up their game a lot. And so the story behind Boycott Hell is Eddie DeGarmo went into a record store and asked, what is the thing the kids are listening to? What is the number one song, the number one record on the pop charts right now? And I don't know if you remember this band, Green Jello. Do you remember them at all?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when he went in, that song about the three little pigs was number one on the MTV charts, number one on the record charts. So he's like, oh, the kids want this, the Three Little Pigs thing. So they go away and they write Boycott Hell. So that
was the inspiration?
That is how that song came about.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's really good news.
Yeah, that's how they came about. And I'm sure Eddie DeGarmo over the years probably realized, oh, I got some bad intel there. I would hope. But I mean, dude, the industry at the time that you did that needed a little kick in the pants. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Well,
Yeah. I don't know how much more time you have. I think I've covered about everything. The one thing I was going to ask is, do you remember the meeting that we had at Platinum Entertainment with you, me, REX, the attorney from Platinum, Rob Woolsey,
Chicago, right? Yeah.
And we were in Nashville, and like I was the punk kid, new kid on the block, and they didn't know what to do with me. But I'm sitting in this power meeting with you, Sixpence, Gavin Markle. I can't remember the attorney's name. What do you recall from that meeting?
I want to hear your recollections first because I've told this story, and I want to see if I'm getting it right. So yes, I want to hear your
only thing I remember, everyone came in, and I had just gotten an office in that place, and my office pissed off everybody in the place except for Rob Woolsey because he brought me in. And so the country music people, the Peter Cetera people, they're like, who is this kid with this god-awful furniture that I got from the Goodwill? You remember those barrel tables that they were made out of like an old wine barrel, and the chairs were made out of the wine barrels? That's what I had in my office. I bought it for like $100 at a Goodwill. And I had that and all of this expensive gear and a purple crushed velvet sofa that Chris Colbert gave to me in lieu of paying me rent money. And I had it in my office. And so we're listening to DATS, and we're talking about, oh man, Matt Slocum and I were talking about, what was that? Evil Woman? I can't remember the band. ELO. Electric Orchestra. We were like obsessing over this song. And so we have to go into the conference room, have this meeting, and all I remember is like the power attorneys at one end, you're at the other, the band's around you, I'm kind of to the side, Rob's to the side, and I just remember you saying, I want to produce their next record, but I don't want to do it for REX, and the attorney said, well, then this meeting's over. That's all I remember. What do you remember?
Right. Yes. So I remember the attorney. Yes, he was sitting on one end. I was sitting at the other. He pulled out their contract at one point, and our assumption was, because it was a really bad contract, and it was essentially going to keep them on REX for as long as they were going to ever record. Yeah. So we assumed that he was going to pull out the contract and say, look, we need to start over with something new here and more appropriate. And instead, he said, we're going with every provision in this contract. And I think Lee actually audibly gasped. And so, and I just remember immediately I did not like this guy. And of course, he didn't know why I was there. So at one point, I recall him looking down at the far end of the table after he's talked to the man and saying some version of it, "Who the hell are you?" And I was like, "I'm just, a friend of the band wanting to produce their next album or something like that." So what I really remember though is the aftermath when we go into the I've got the Venetian blinds are doing something funny to my face. So we go into to go to the parking lot after the meeting and kind of circle up, and because it was a pretty depressing meeting. And I remember I felt really bad for you too, because I knew how much you loved the band and how much you wanted to do the right thing. And now you've got this new boss from Chicago who is not a good guy. Yeah. And so so I'm circling up, and JJ, the bass player, actually breaks down and starts crying. Oh, wow. Like that's how bad the news was. And so that was when I said, okay, listen, we're going to breakfast. We're going to go to the Pancake Pantry because we need that. And so we head to the Pancake Pantry, and I get everybody to breakfast, and then I just kind of lay out the plan, which I'm making up at the time, which is, look, you guys are about ready to break up because of all the bad stuff you're going through in the music biz. We just got to make some music because, that's why you're a band. And so somehow we just got to get in the studio and start working. And, they're like, well, how are we going to do that? And I said, well, I'm not sure, but I'll figure it out. And so we ended up going to that same studio and bringing in equipment again. And the studio was the same one that we'd done Newsboys, Take Me to Your Leader. So we have to put equipment in again. And Russ Long, bless him, engineers it. And, I'm just putting all the expenses on credit card, but I think Russ did the album for free at that point just to get it done. But the beautiful thing was it was right next door to Platinum Entertainment where we just had that terrible meeting.
That's amazing.
And the thought that we're doing it, right under the nose of this Chicago lawyer's new evil empire just gave me no end of joy.
Man.
So,
It's so legit. We kind of did the same thing with Tess because she was trying to get a record deal outside. Right. So we did a covers record for Platinum. But while we were doing that, we did like a 4-song demo for Tess so she could go shopping to other places. So, man,
Tess,
great
so
bands
good.
to like. Yeah.
Tess,
that makes me feel so good.
The band, of course, had great success. But to my mind, the best version of Sixpence was that I saw him live was when Tess was in the band, and oh man, they were just killer. And of course, they always stayed a really solid band, but Tess added a spark. I was really sorry to see her go because I loved what she added to the band.
Yeah, the second episode of this podcast was with Tess. I brought that up. She was very flattered. You had said that.
Oh yeah.
I remember those things. I don't know if there's anything else. Is there anything you want to talk about or cover? You've been so generous with your time.
Oh, this has been a blast. Thanks for doing it, man. You got me to tell the Poison story.
Well, I remember these things, and I'm like, one morning I woke up and I texted you, and I'm like, hey, and you were like, you're catching me at a good time. So I'm like, if I get him, I'm going to ask him the questions, because this is amongst friends. This is not, I'm trying to do a gotcha moment or anything like that. There are a few other things I was looking for I couldn't find that were more fun, but thanks so much for answering those two because you heard the rumors in the past and all that stuff, but I know the real dirt. I'm so honored that I have that place where you could take me aside and go, look, let me tell you what happened with Poison. It was hilarious. I'm like, to me, that is the best payoff, more than a paycheck. And believe me, I did not get a paycheck. So, yeah, man, I so appreciate it. I have no.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. Well, man, it's been a blast. I think the when Chagall Guevara, we did a reunion show at the Ryman and filmed it, and so hopefully that'll be coming out sometime this year. That'll be the next kind of music project. But I do have one thing I want to tell you about.
Yeah.
So after we did the show at the Ryman, we had these kind of premium tickets that were a ridiculous amount of money, and so we wanted people who felt that strongly about the band to feel like on some level they got their money's worth. So we said, if you want to get these premium tickets, you're invited to the after party, which would be the next night, and we're having it at Jack White's the Blue Room club. And we said, we'll have the band together, and they'll do some jamming, and we'll have some special guests. And so that's all we said. And then we did the show, and it went really well. And then the next night we were at the Blue Room, and one of the special guests was Russ Taff, who's well-known gospel singer. And my assumption, I hadn't seen Russ in a while, and he was pushing 70 and just turned 70 actually not too long ago. And my just assumption was, I knew he'd been through some tough times, and he's very open about a long period of alcoholism and getting sober, and all that entails. But I just assumed that probably affected his voice in not a good way. And instead, man, he did a version of Charlie Peacock's Down in the Lowlands that just blew our minds. And it was like it blew the top off the joint, and it was like taking everybody to church. And it was so good. And so afterwards, I'm talking with the band. It's like, he needs to do an album like that. Like, how do we get that on an album? And I'm remembering, what Rick Rubin had done with Johnny Cash late in Johnny Cash's career, when at the time Johnny Cash was playing supper clubs, and at this time Russ Taff has been playing Pentecostal churches on a Sunday morning. He's kind of semi-retired. So I got with him, and John Painter, of course, who Fleming and John's been we've worked together for years, and he was in The Perfect Foil, and he actually had been going to church with Russ for a number of years, and Russ would often sing in church. But then Russ and his wife Tori moved out to the country, and so he hadn't heard him for a while, but he just knew his voice really well, and he got really excited about this idea. So a friend of mine was willing to put up some money to make the record, and John produced it, and I kind of oversaw it. But the idea was, how do we make that kind of an album with Russ Taff? And so it's a collection of covers, and there's a few gospel-y songs, but he also covers Prince's "The Cross" from the Sign of the Times album. He covers "When Love Comes to Town," the U2 song. He does an incredible version of Duran Duran's "Ordinary World." He does a cover of Depeche Mode's "People Are People." And one of my favorites, I'm a big fan of this band, The National, and he does covers a song of theirs called "Demons." And along with that is a Bob Dylan cover, and just a lot of really interesting songs, as well as ending up with a praise and worship song that's fantastic. And so the album just got wrapped up pretty recently, and Matt Wallace, who had produced and mixed Chagall Guevara. So he mixed it, and it's just, I'm as excited about this project as just about anything I've ever been involved in.
Oh man, no, it sounds great.
Yeah, it's really good. So hopefully you'll be hearing it maybe sometime later in the year. But I'm so excited about this album and people hearing it, because I just listen to it all the time, and his voice sounds so good. I think it's the best he's ever sounded. And he was very nervous about the album. At one point he was afraid that he just couldn't do it. It was not like anything he'd ever done before. And I promised him that we wouldn't let him look stupid. And
I want to hear it, dude. Man.
Well, I might be able to arrange a secret link for you. So
please. I remember the thing about Chagall Guevara that I thought was so cool is that Matt Wallace produced it because I was very big into Faith No More at the time. And he did
Right.
the real thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this record's going to be great.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I'll tell you two things. One, when Tess was on, like my whole thing is cover songs. I don't know if you remember, I had
Right.
all the bands do cover songs. The last thing I did with Sixpence was that Grinch song. And
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
to this day, I still hear that like in Macy's and, J.C. Penney, and I'm like, oh man, something I did 30
Yes.
years later is still out there. That's just beyond me. But when I had Tess on, she did two cover songs. She did Levitating by Dua Lipa. I don't even
I love
know
that.
if you know
I love that song. I
Oh,
love that song.
Dua Lipa is like my what do you say, like my guilty pleasure. Yeah. So
That new album of hers is great too. Kevin
Oh,
Parker from Tame Impala produced a lot of the tracks.
even
I
the
love
stuff
the
on the
new-
Barbie album, like the Barbie movie, it's like I can't get that stuff out of my head. But she did Levitating, and she did Puppies Are Forever by Sia, the Christmas song. Because originally I recorded the episode as a Christmas episode. So
Right.
we
And
did
speaking
that.
of,
Yeah.
did you know that Sia is Peter Furler's cousin?
Are you serious? No way.
Peter Furler from Newsboys. Sia, because Sia's last name is Furler. It's his
No
cousin.
way.
What
That's
are the
crazy.
chances?
Does she know Jesus?
Not to my knowledge, but
No. We can hope.
yeah. But I don't actually. I don't. I'm not. Peter hasn't mentioned that. Let's just
Yeah.
put it that way.
Sia was on the new Scooby-Doo Mysteries. You
Oh,
actually
right.
see Sia animated with Scooby-Doo.
Oh.
But
Nice.
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I met the Newsboys when I was at Star Song, and they were about to release their first record. And I think it's either Peter or the lead singer is married to Marilyn Lefebvre's daughter. That's how they got
Yes,
their
Peter.
deal. Okay.
Yes, Peter. Yeah, that's right. And they're still married.
I know this stuff. It's crazy. The
Yeah.
other thing I was going to tell you about Chagall Guevara. So when I heard the very first song I heard by you guys was on WRVU.
WRBU. Yeah,
Yeah,
the college station.
yeah. And they played Love Canal. And
Right.
I called immediately because I knew, because they were like, the Chagall Guevara is the local show. And I'm like, where can I find a copy of this? And the guy's like, it's not in stores. And I'm like, can I get you to make me a copy of this? Because I want to hear it. And I somehow convinced the DJ to make a copy of your demo and leave it
Wow.
at the concierge in the student center or something.
Right.
That's how I
Yeah.
got your first
Wow.
record. And yeah, I wore that out. Love Canal is still my favorite song to this day. I don't know why. It's just a good
Nice.
rock song. Yeah. So for whatever it's worth, there you go.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. All right, man. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Thank you so much for your time. And, talking to you is like talking to somebody that I haven't missed a beat from. I don't know if you have those friends, but like every 10 years you see someone, you're like, you haven't missed a day. And I really appreciate that. I'm very humbled by that. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to Nashville soon so we can reconnect somehow.
Get in some hang time. Yes, that sounds great, Alex.
Yeah.
All right. It's been a pleasure. Great to see you again.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Bye.